I'm going to be starting a new project today, and I'm looking forward to it. In fact, I've been looking forward to it for a long time. I have a gas tank on my 32 Studebaker that was originally a steam tank in a leather tannery in Rockland, Maine. Now that building had been run off of, well, probably, what was that? Probably a giant steam boiler that was hooked to an overhead shaft that ran through the building, and it had like a giant crankshaft that went the length of the building, probably 100 feet. And when they took all the steam stuff out of it, there was all kind of pipes and tanks and stuff like that, and the guy that owned the place said I could have it. I took the pipes home and I built roll cage for my first race car. But there was a big tank similar to this but not quite as big, and Mike was building the Studebaker. This was 40 years ago, and maybe more than that, maybe 45 years ago. And he said he would like to have it, and he took it and he put it in the Studebaker for a gas tank. And that old steam tank, boiler tank from that factory is still in that car today. And the tank itself is, well, it's old, obviously. It could be close to a century old. And the places where he mounted the fill cap leaks around the edges, and I've tried to butter them up with various concoctions of chemicals, you know, like JB Weld and Pour 15 and stuff like that. But this still leaks if it gets higher, you know, the level gets higher than a certain amount. And I've wanted a new tank all along, and I really wanted one with a center fill cap, because I have a cover that goes on the back of that car with a hole in the center where the original tank was, and it fits that. And I wanted it to have a place to hook up a sending unit for a gas gauge, because the car does have a gas gauge in it and the sending unit works. So if I had that sending unit, I could put this on there. Now, I found these tanks for about half the price of this one, but none of them had what I wanted as far as the place to put your sending unit and the center mounted fill spout. I am hoping that I'll be able to reach down inside of the little piece that goes on the back if I decide to put it on there and take that fill spout off and put it back on. I'm hoping the hole is big enough for that. So, and I also have these fenders that came off of the Studebaker, and they've been on that rat rod trailer. And I would like to put these fenders on the back of the Studebaker to see what it looks like, put this tank in it, and then take that cover that I've got and either put it on or leave it off, because it may be that this looks better with just the tank back there, although the cover is really nice. It's painted black and it's pinstriped and it's really nice. So there's a lot of fun to be had here, and this is a perfect day for it. So I'm gonna go down and bring the Studebaker up and back it in here, and we're gonna play with that for a little while. Okay. This is the tank that's on that. I've got this little cover over it, but it is, well, it's got, you see these little rivets in it? Nope, I was wrong. I was thinking it had rivets in it, but maybe it don't. But yeah. And the cover is under there. I'm going to back this out and then we'll look at that cover too. Let's set you over here on the front of the Rambler. I was playing with the timing as I was driving this to the car show the other day, so I'm not sure. It seemed like toward the end it didn't crank as good as it did before, but it ran better. You know, I had the timing so high that the cranking would drag a little, but it would crank immediately, go like, and it'd just be running. So I noticed it turns over freely, but sometimes I have to pump the gas a little bit more to get it started. So we'll see how it cranks. Every time you change something on the car, you have to get used to how it cranks. And that's what I'm talking about. sure I didn't leave any battery tenders or anything hooked up here. Good. So this is that piece I was talking about. So if I can make it, if I can get it through that hole, and it doesn't look like it's going to fit through that hole. But that's a nice looking piece. So I don't have to run it, but I can run it. But I'll just have to look at the hole. And there's my other fender right there. So I'm going to run the Studebaker up the house, and we'll smoke it out. See what we're going to do next. Let's see. I'll just stick y'all to the door over here. These things about this car is it's hard to back it with these little crappy mirrors. I actually found one side of a mirror that's kind of made for a camper that you could bolt like a trucker mirror, but it's not. If you get a real trucker mirror for like an 18-wheeler, it would be big enough so it would come up here and about halfway down the door. But this one was a smaller one, and I was thinking if I put that that mirror here, I could hinge a wing. The Rambler and a lot of the cars from the 70s had a vent, and you flip that vent out and you'd get just a ton of air coming in. And even though this has this vent and this top, I don't get the kind of air that I would with the Rambler. And I was thinking, well, if I had one of those type of mirrors here, I could hinge off that mirror and put me a wing that I could adjust. Hopefully, that's the plan. Because if I had more air blowing in this car, it'd be a lot more fun to drive on a hot day going to and from a car show. So here's what we have to work with back here. I'm going to turn this light on. We'll make a little light here in the garage. Now I'm thinking that this car would look good with the fender. I think the fender would make the stance look good, but you know, there's no real way to know unless you put one on it. My wife used to have a saying when we was restoring that house up in Maine. I'd say, what do you think if we knock this wall down? She says, I don't know, you'll have to do it so I can see what it would look like. So I'd knock the wall down, she'd look at it, and she'd say something like, I think I liked it better when it was up. And I'd put it back up. But that got to be something that we laughed about a lot is, you know, what do you think about this? And she'd say, well, put it there and let me look at it. Sometimes we'd wind up putting it back. That's how it rolls, though. So let's just have us a little fun with that. We'll take this off to start.